Hello and welcome back. And calls on all 20 of our cases have kept us very busy here in the studio and at local police headquarters all around the country. We've had some particularly important calls on the attacker in Sussex. More of that later. But first of all, Nick.
And let's go straight away with news on our photo call faces. Superintendent David Hatcher. Let's start straight away with the Richmond robber, because I know you've had a lot of calls on that one.
Yes, in fact, over 20 calls there, Nick, and they've given us a number of names, and several different sources have given us names, in fact, given us the same name. So that looks extremely promising.
Now, there was a robber in Redditch who was extremely distinctive. He was fat, he was out of breath and unfit, he had a protruding lower jaw.
Yes, poor soul had nothing going for him, did he? Well, we've had 7 calls, including one from an officer who's suggesting that man may already be in custody, and the other calls have given us possible names. So again, we're hopeful.
Anything on the jewellery raid in Hatfield, the Hertfordshire one?
Yes, 10 calls, including names of people who are thought to be involved in this kind of crime, who live in the Hertfordshire and London area, the right area, and it ties in with what officers on the case know. So, again, we're hopeful.
And someone who's trying to pass off stolen travellers' checks?
Yes, well, that one has produced a few more potential victims. An Eastbourne department store say that somebody tried to use a stolen American Express card there on Monday of this week, and that someone was identical to the man on our picture. A bank employee in Epping says this man, the same man, tried to cash stolen Visa checks there and ran out on the 29th of last month. And another 2 banks have now called us and said that this man has tried to cash American Express checks with them too. So we're building up quite a long picture of where and what he's up to. What we want to know is where is he now, of course.
Anything on Joseph Schofield?
Yes, quite a lot, and I'm not going to tell you any more than that because we want to keep that one a bit quiet for the time being.
I see. All right. The gang who robbed a building society in Greenford, probably the same people who tried it on a bank in Romford.
Yes, well, one of those raiders there obligingly took his mask off as he was leaving. We've got a possible name for him, and we've got an appeal too. A caller has phoned the police direct, phoned the police station direct, and we'd like that caller, please, to get in touch with us again. What you've said already looks very promising, and we must talk to you some more. Please get in touch.
Thank you. Sue.
Well, now the armed robbers on Merseyside who attacked as a security van delivered a cash box to the headquarters of Manweb on Lister Road in Liverpool. And as the raiders escaped, they were taken by surprise as a time-delayed security device detonated, filling their getaway car with pungent red smoke and covering them and the money with indelible red dye. Detective Inspector Alan Buckley has been taking the calls, and what sort of calls have you had?
We've had a good response to a large number of calls, certainly to the studio and to our headquarters. There are some people who have tried to pass tainted notes, but some without success. We've got a good lead on where the vehicle was stored and where the number plate has been changed, which points us to a particular area of Liverpool, which we're looking at in the not-too-distant future.
Have you had any names or identities for the people?
We have been given quite a few names. A particular individual did ring us and has given us names. He obviously knows about the matter. He put the phone down, and I would appeal to him if he could come forward again, phone us again. He would be treated in the strictest confidence, and we could do with speaking to him again.
Right. What about that cash box? You're hoping somebody might have found that dumped somewhere?
Yes, unfortunately, as yet, nobody's come forward to say that they have found it, but it is useless to anybody at all, and it would be a good clue for us if we could get it back.
Right. And what about the car itself? You're hoping that somebody might give you some information as to where that Ford Sierra was between the 26th of April and the 11th of May?
Yes, as I say, we've had a very important call that points us towards a garage in a particular area of Liverpool, where we will be looking at in the not-too-distant future.
Right. Well, let's hope that they do come forward. Thank you very much indeed.
No. Well, now to the gunshot murder in Dundee. On a Monday morning, a couple of months ago, several people in the centre of the city saw a man whose behaviour attracted their attention. Later that afternoon, Gow's, the gun shop which that man had seemed to have come out of, was checked by police, and they found that the shopkeeper, Gordon Johnston, had been murdered. How many calls have you had, Mr. Mackay? Are you pleased with the result?
Yes, we've had quite a number of calls here in the studio, and about 26 to 30 calls in Dundee itself.
That's despite intensive local publicity to this case already.
Indeed, yes. The publicity has been kept going for some time, and we've had a lot of calls, but tonight we've had almost 30 calls.
What have you discovered that you didn't know before?
Nothing significant other than the fact that names have been given and more information in regard to possible suspects, etc.
Have you actually got names of suspects? And
Persons
names?
have phoned in with names, whether anonymously or otherwise, and we're following this up now.
Have you been able to eliminate any of the people that we saw in the film, because there were a number of men who were seen sighted near the place, or have you got names for them?
No, not as yet.
OK, well, obviously, if you can help, our lines are still open. Do give us a call. Sue.
Well, next, the man in Littlehampton, who's made several attempts to attack women in the area since February. 2 of the victims gave strikingly similar descriptions of the attackers, as we can see by putting the 2 video fits side by side like that. Mr. John Ryder, I gather you've had some very important calls, actually, on this.
We have indeed. We've had tremendous incident calls both here and at Littlehampton, over 100 now. And there's a lot of genuine people in Littlehampton area who feel that they know the described man by the photo fit in Bognor, Littlehampton and the Worthing area. We are in fact following now.
Yes, those two video fits are so similar. Has anybody actually come up with a name?
We've had several names that have come forward, and once again we will be following those up.
You can't really underestimate the importance, can you, of women coming forward, having the courage to come forward and report attacks like this?
Indeed. And during the programme, we had one such young lady who's been a victim of an atrocious attack come forward to give information. She was willing to help us. And we believe that there are a number of young ladies who have been subjected to such attacks who probably could come forward and help us. We need that information to catch this man.
Right. Well, Mr. Ryder, thank you very much indeed.
Well, let's see now what sort of calls have been coming through on our incident desk. David, we were trying to trace somebody called Marcos, a friend of Sandy Douglas, who was murdered.
Yes, sadly, 45-year-old Sandy Douglas was murdered in Aycliffe up in Darlington. Well, we've got some hope there because Marcos has been suggested as being in various places around the country, and we said that we thought he was working as a waiter, and some of the information that we've got ties in with him possibly being a waiter. So there are a number of places to check out around the country, and in the areas that we suspected he might be. We also were seeking a camera, like this one, an AF-10, that belonged to Sandy Douglas, and the serial number we know on that one was in fact 1823428. Well, we've had about 3 calls from people who say they found cameras like this and handed them in to the police or still have them. So we can check that out, and that might be a vital clue. Okay. And lastly, some possible train sightings that we were featuring.
Because he was thought to be on a train from
That's right.
back down to London. There was a robber then, fairly active in the Midlands and South West, who was wearing, it thought to be, a black curly wig and probably a false black moustache as well.
Yes, we've got a couple of names that could match up with him. We think actually he's got fair hair or ginger hair, not like the black wig as you mentioned. But we'll be following those up.
OK, and a man wanted in connection with the fraud inquiry, Peter William Wakeling.
Yes, well, actually, we want to talk to Peter William Wakeling about the frauds. We've had a suggestion from a cab driver that he dropped him off a couple of days ago in Grantham. Somebody else says they think they saw Peter William Wakeling at Yarmouth races where he was bidding for a horse, and we know that he was involved in horses. Possible sighting at a Norfolk caravan site. And we've had a Peter William Wakeling call us from Cambridgeshire who says he does fit the description, but it's not him.
Okay.
We will talk to him and check that out, of course.
So.
Well, meanwhile, the lines here in the studio are closing down now. If you still have some information to give but haven't managed to get through yet, the relevant local police numbers for all tonight's cases will be on your screen in a moment, or you can ring your local police, or you can write to us if you like, and the address is Crimewatch UK, BBC Television, London W12 7RJ.
It'll be September before we see you next. Crimewatch UK takes a summer break. But a final reminder before we go, we say it all the time, but it's nonetheless true. Serious and violent crime is mercifully rarer than people think. And if we work together, it always will be. So please don't have nightmares, do sleep well. Good night.
Good night.